Hi, everyone, and welcome to this edition of My Strategy. I am your host, John M. Hawkins. We're coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. We're very happy to be here with you today on this Saturday, and really glad you could join us. My Strategy episodes are live at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern on Saturdays. Today, we're going to be talking about Pay It Forward. In this episode, I'm going to talk about the benefits of paying it forward. Generosity is in our nature and can also be socially contagious. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we, by mentoring of others, can improve our skills, and we're going to develop a pay-it-forward strategy. Well, happy to be here today. We're talking about paying it forward. And for me, Saturday is the day I choose to reflect on my strategy. But keep in mind that any day is a good day for you to reflect on your strategy. The show is growing. We're available on iHeart, iTunes, Player FM, YouTube, SoundCloud, Spreaker, and many more platforms. So you can go there and listen to any of the past episodes that we've had. You can find me at Hawkins John on Twitter or at johnmhawkins.com. That's Hawkins John on Twitter or johnmhawkins.com. And if you do go out there, we've shifted our giveaway strategy a little bit, and that's where you can go and enter in to win. We just named the winner for our last giveaway, which was Kevin from Arvado, California. So congratulations to Kevin. There's a new contest out there, and this is in honor of the Pay It Forward theme. So there's a $100 Visa gift card and also a $100 donation in your honor to Toys for Tots, which is a great charity that helps provide toys for young children at the holiday season. So please go there. Sign up and get your chance to win. And just like anything in life, we need to have a strategy and a plan to help us reach our goals, because the best laid plans don't always work. And this week I am looking for stories on how you have paid it forward, or perhaps someone's paid it forward to you. Or if you've got a tip or a trick, send it to me. My email is talk@johnmhawkins.com. That's talk@johnmhawkins.com. And if you'd like to be on the show or just have a conversation, send an email to talk@johnmhawkins.com. We'll get the conversation started and see what we can do. We're talking today about paying it forward. I'm going to talk a little bit today about what paying it forward is all about. Talk about how there is science behind paying it forward. And it actually is socially contagious, and some experiments show the ripple effect and why it works. I've got a couple different studies I want to go through with you. I'm going to talk a little bit about the financial aspects of paying it forward and how generosity can help us become more wealthy. We're going to talk a little bit about how we can pay it forward if we aren't in a financial position to do so, through mentorship and helping to get others to a point where they feel they are able to pay it forward. And also we're going to talk then about our strategy and how we're going to build a pay-it-forward strategy. So paying it forward. Pay it forward is an expression for describing the beneficiary of a good deed, repaying the kindness to others instead of the original benefactor. And I'm pulling this from Wikipedia. It says the concept is old, but the particular phrase may have been coined by Lily Hardy Hammond in her 1916 book, In the Garden of Delight. The phrase achieved significant popularization from Catherine Ryan Hyde's 1999 novel and then movie Pay It Forward. Pay It Forward is also implemented in contract law in loans in the concept of a third-party beneficiary. Specifically, the creditor offers the debtor the option of paying the debt forward by lending it to the third person instead of paying it back to the original creditor. This contract may include the provision that the debtor may repay the debt in kindness, or in kind, lending the same amount to a similarly disadvantaged party once they have the means and under the same conditions. Debt and payments can be monetary or, by good deeds, a related type of transactions, which starts with a gift instead of a loan. Well, paying it forward. Got an article here by Elizabeth Svoboda. It's titled Pay It Forward. She says, at first, being the Good Samaritan wasn't that easy, Both recipients and intermediaries, the drive-through cashiers, for instance, were suspicious of her motives. Still, any resistance paled compared to the satisfaction Moser felt when someone smiled and thanked her for her efforts. Literature, religion, and fairy tales all trumpet the message that kindness will change our lives for the better. Think of a transformed Scrooge in A Christmas Carol. But this message is just a sugar-coated platitude. But is this message just a sugar-coated platitude, or can altruism really create lasting satisfaction? According to Stanford psychologist Sonia Lyubomirsky, she decided to put the kindness fulfillment connection to the test. She asked students to carry out a 5-week random act of kindness of their choice. Anything from buying a Big Mac for a homeless person to helping a younger sibling with schoolwork. Her results indicated the Scrooge effect is no myth. The students reported higher levels of happiness than the control group, with students who performed all 5 kind acts in one day reaping the biggest rewards by the end of the 6-week study period. Previous studies have found that altruistic people tend to be happier. And it was the first established that good deeds are actually the direct cause of an increase in well-being. And as this show is all about personal development and helping ourselves, there is some benefit in helping others and why Pay It Forward strategy can be so beneficial. She goes on to say, why is being generous such a mood booster? While hard and fast answers are elusive, the main reason is that people with a strong sense of doing something for others that matters can have a very positive social effect. She says all of the responses are likely to make your happiness cup run over. In another study, she found that people who felt most strongly that others appreciated their efforts reported the biggest groups. In this article, she goes on to talk about a New Jersey rabbi who could testify that the acts of kindness helped reshape his self-image. He said after his wife was killed by a suicide bomber in Israel in 2001, that he decided to respond by carrying out small acts of kindness each day. And gradually, over time, he felt his anger and apathy dissolve, and it was replaced by a strong sense of purpose. Being kind helps you feel in control, Greenbaum says. By doing a good deed, you're saying, here's something that I can do to change the world. How many of us are in a situation where we might feel like Greenbaum, where we're mad at the world, we're mad at what's happening? But in this case, while Greenbaum did have his wife killed by a suicide bomber, he started small, random acts of kindness. Now imagine if this little strategy is able to help Mr. Greenbaum with his grief and his stress, then it's definitely something that might help us with our daily efforts. You're listening to My Strategy. I'm your host, John M. Hawkins, coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. When we come back, we're going to talk about the science behind paying it forward. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome back, everyone. I'm John M. Hawkins. The show is called My Strategy. We're coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. Today we're talking about paying it forward. And right before the break, we were talking about paying it forward and how generosity can help others be generous. In this segment, I want to talk a little bit about the science of paying it forward. We got an article here by Nathan Heflick. It's called Paying It Forward. Greed begets greed more than generosity begets generosity. What does he mean by this? He says, imagine someone does something nice for you when you see someone else that needs help. Are you more likely to help that person? What if you were mistreated by someone? Are you more likely to then mistreat a person unrelated to the situation? Kurt Gray, who is a professor in psychology at the University of Northern Carolina, and colleagues recently tested these questions directly In a series of experiments in one study, participants in a city were approached to play an economic game. They were taken to an isolated bench where they were told that they could split $6 between them. And an anonymous future person, prior to this, that these individuals were told that the previous person in the study had either left them all $6, $3, or $0. 1/3 of the participants were told one of these things, and they would be able to keep whatever amount they were given by the previous participant. Now, this previous participant was fake, but the study group did not know this. And the amount they chose to keep from the $6 that they thought were to divide themselves and the next person. So the purpose was to see if the money people received was paid forward by them to the future person, that is, if they were given $6. Were they more likely to give people more money in the future than if they were given $0 or $3? The results showed that when receiving $3, ostensibly from the previous participant, individuals gave an average of $3.38 to the next person. However, when given $6, this increased to $3.71. Perhaps most interestingly, when people were forwarded $0, they gave an average of $1.32 to the next person. For comparison, when people were not told how much money that had been left, people left an average of $2.60 for the next person, about 40%, meaning that in a neutral setting, people kept more for themselves than for others. This research and several follow-up studies indicates that people do pay it forward. However, the effect of being mistreated by others carries more weight than the effect of being treated generously by others in terms of paying it forward. More crudely put, meanness spreads more than kindness. That's according to Nathan Heflick. Another article here in the New York Times. Title of this is The Science of Paying It Forward by Melina Chevkova and Michael Macy. It says, one morning at the drive-thru of a Tim Hortons coffee shop in Winnipeg, Manitoba, a customer paid for her order and then picked up the tab for the stranger in the car behind her. Then that customer paid for the bill for the following customer in line, and so on and so forth, for the next 226 customers in a 3-hour sequence of spontaneous generosity. It turns out that such pay-it-forward chains are not unheard of at Tim Hortons, though they are usually much shorter. The news outlets have reported the emergence of many such chains in a variety of restaurant drive-thrus, toll booths throughout North America. Last year, Chick-fil-A experienced a 67-car chain, and a few months later, Heavenly Donuts in Amesbury, Mass. Had a run of 55 cars. Have you ever been in a line at Starbucks or another restaurant, fast food restaurant, and had someone pay for you? I know I have. How did you feel when they paid for it? I felt pretty good, so I did it. I paid it forward. But the question from a scientific perspective is, why do these things happen? They say one possibility is that the generosity among strangers can be socially contagious. According to this theory, if you receive or observe an act of kindness, you become more likely to help others, even if your own action won't be directly reciprocated or rewarded. Rather than repay someone for helping, you pay it forward. A phrase which we have previously talked about being attributed to Catherine Ryan Hyde's 1999 novel with the same name. It says, in recent years, social scientists have conducted experiments demonstrating that the effect of a single act of kindness, in fact, can ripple throughout a social network, setting off a chain of generosity that reaches far beyond the original act. But whether it is enough to merely witness a generous act, rather than actually benefiting from one, has an open question. In an experiment, the results of which were published in the journal PLOS1, they studied both possibilities. They found that receiving and observing generosity can both significantly increase your likelihood of being generous towards a stranger, but that if you observe a high enough level of generosity, your willingness to help suffers and you become a bystander who feels that help is no longer needed. This is an interesting point. If someone is in need, all of us have a sense of wanting to help, but once we feel that that assistance has been provided, we no longer feel the need. Interesting. For our study, we recruited more than 600 participants from Amazon's Mechanical Turk and online marketplace, where users advised tasks to be completed in exchange for money. They enlisted them to participate in something called the invention game. They were informed that they could participate in the game and earn a base payment in cash and bonuses, but only if they received an invitation. So to get the game started, they created a few invitations and sent them to random people. Those who received invitations were then informed they had been assigned to play the game in a group of 150 people, and each invitee had the opportunity to create one additional invitation for a stranger in his group, and if they gave back the bonus, earned only the base payment. That invitation will be sent to anonymously to the stranger. Participants were randomly assigned to these situations, and there's more information here which we're running out of time on. But what they did find was that when they observed a high level of helping, they did not help themselves. And they appeared to feel that their own sacrifices were no longer needed. So another study that talks about how there is an impact on giving, but too much giving can impact our need to give. You're listening to My Strategy. I'm your host, John M. Hawkins, coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. When we come back, we're going to talk about financial deeds and how generosity is in our human nature. We'll be right back. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to this edition of My Strategy. I am your host, John M. Hawkins, coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. Well, very happy to be here with you today and really glad you could join us. Today we're talking about paying it forward. This episode, we're talking about paying it forward and the benefits of paying it forward. Right before the break, we were talking about the science of paying it forward. We talked about a couple different studies which looked into the reasons why we pay it forward and scientifically how all of that works, and the fact that, if we see generosity, we tend to reciprocate and we tend to be generous as well. But when we see too much generosity, we tend to pull back because the need has been met. In this segment, I want to talk a little bit about the financial deeds and how that can impact us. We've got an article here by Natalie Wursler. It says, we've all been there in the early morning. You're stuck in rush hour traffic. You're running late, and all you need is the strongest concoction that your coffee shop can brew. She, like in our previous segment, says, now imagine you're surprised when you pull up to the window and the barista says, your drink has been paid for by the customer before you. Would you like to keep the trend going? And that's exactly the situation that Carson Skinner, a 34-year-old graphic designer from Jacksonville, Florida, found himself in one Sunday morning. He said yes and became the 22nd person in the row to pay it forward to the driver behind him. He said, the odd thing is, when I pulled up, I thought, why don't I pay for the person behind me, remembers Skinner. Then the cashier informed him that somebody earlier in line had already started paying for the person behind him. He says it's not a foreign concept to him, but it did brighten his day. And I mentioned earlier that it brightened my day. And think about that for a minute, though. How do you feel when you are someplace, somewhere, and the coffee example is probably the most frequent that I see, but when somebody does do something nice for you, they hold the door, they offer to help with groceries, they are doing something to help you that they don't have to do. He says most of us at some point either pay it forward to someone else or benefit from the random kindness of a stranger. And it's a nice feeling and one that can truly turn your day around. It says your generosity is human nature. David Rand, a researcher at Harvard University, who started a professorship in the psychology department at Yale, had spent years studying human cooperation, as well as what drives us to pay costs that will benefit the greater good. Rand's research revolves around reputation motivators, which are the conscious and subconscious mechanisms that encourage us to cooperate with others. If you interact repeatedly with the same person or a small group of people, so you're working with the same people over and over and over again, then you are likely to help them so that they will help you in the future. Rand explains it's not just on a small scale, but adds that when we're interacting with huge groups, we're still inclined to cooperate because we never know who could be taking note. I guess think about that. When you're out on the streets and meeting strangers, you probably aren't going to think about helping them. You don't know them. But as I say here, in these small groups, like your family group, work perhaps, people you know, you see them so often and repeatedly that it becomes common nature or common, we just start to naturally do it. It's a natural tendency. It says last fall, in conjunction with two other researchers, Rand asked 2,000 subjects to participate in a game. And the participants were given money and asked them to decide whether they'd keep it for their own purposes or place the money in a pool to collectively benefit others. Now, this references the study that was done earlier, a similar study to what we talked about in the first segment. But it says the results, most of the subjects chose to help the fellow man before thinking to use the money for selfish purposes. So another situation where we see that people do want to pay it forward. It says we explain the results as follows. In our daily lives, structural factors like reputation make cooperation a winning strategy. So we're used to cooperating most of the time, says Rand. Translation, no one likes selfish people. So it makes sense to help others. Essentially, not only does paying it forward have an immediate monetary cost, like the price of a cup of coffee, but Rand explains that overall cost you're paying to help the greater good also includes your time and efforts. It says how helping actually helps you. It says that's not to say that the only reason we choose to pay it forward is for the reputation boost. No. Take, for instance, the story of Cheryl Richard Buell, an inspirational book author and life coach in San Francisco, and she chose to celebrate her 48th birthday by completing 48 random acts of kindness. Most beneficiaries were strangers. Richard asked friends to pass along the names of people who could use a little encouragement and then set about on her mission. She left voicemails of poetry. She sent a book to a recent divorcee. A teenager who had just lost his job received an iTunes gift card. In total, Richard Buell spent $150 of the birthday gift money that she had received for family and friends during her Pay It Forward project, and gained an invaluable present for herself in the process. She realized how much unconditional love she could feel for people that she didn't know. She says, it changed my whole outlook on life. I realized that I don't ever need to feel lonely or unloved, and she doesn't think she'll ever be the same. Well, think about it from that perspective. We're looking for personal development. We're looking for, all of us have different goals. We have different objectives. There's different things we're working on. I'm working on things every single day. And maybe we're thinking about the monetary aspects, the financial aspects of what we're trying to do. We're trying to learn a skill. We're trying to do something to help us get to a specific future state, a goal, an aspiration, something that we want to do. But have we tried paying it forward? Paying it forward might just help give you that motivational boost that you need to be able to do more than you ever thought possible. So based on what I'm seeing here with regard to paying it forward, this sense of satisfaction, the sense of having a purpose in life, why not try it? Why not try paying it forward to someone and seeing what the net impact is? We know that there's some financial benefits to doing it with regard to tax donations and things, but also how are we benefiting as a person, and how is that helping us? You never know what it could do. You're listening to My Strategy. I'm your host, John M. Hawkins, coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. When we come back, we're going to talk about paying it forward through mentoring. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome back, everyone. You're listening to My Strategy. I am your host, John M. Hawkins, coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. Well, I'm happy to be here today and really glad that you could join us. My Strategy episodes are live and on Saturdays at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Today we're talking about paying it forward. In this episode, we're talking about the benefits of paying it forward. Generosity is in our nature and socially contagious, and mentoring of others can help improve your skills. We're also talking about developing a pay-it-forward strategy. We're really happy to be here today. I do want to let you know that every week we have a giveaway. Every month now we have a giveaway. We've shifted that from weekly to monthly. And if you'd like to have a chance to enter into the giveaway, you can go to Hawkins John on Twitter or go to my website at johnmhawkins.com. And the pinned tweet or the pinned blog will give you instructions on how to enter. I do want to congratulate Kevin from Arvado, who won last month's giveaway, November giveaway. All right, so this week we're talking about paying it forward. Right before the break, we were talking about financial deeds and how generosity is in our human nature and it can help us. In this segment, I want to talk a little bit about paying it forward through mentorship. Got an article here by Tamara Schwarting. It says how to benefit others and pay it forward through mentorship. She says 30 years from now, when people think back on you and your career, what will they remember? Todd Henry, author of Herding Tigers, encourages us that our legacy isn't the work, it's the people. And if that's true, then we should strive to plan and leave behind more than a record of economic success. We consider how we are building self-confidence and success into the young leaders who are in the professional spaces below and between us. The author suggests that mentorship is one of the greatest tools for investing in future leaders. And while we often envision mentorship as a long-term relationship between two people, mentorship in many different forms throughout our career can be helpful. There's a college professor who encourages a young writer, a supervisor who increases an employee's responsibilities at work, a seasoned business owner who helps an entrepreneur through an opening in business. All of these people invest a bit of themselves in helping to pay it forward and build a life and career for someone else. Why would we do this? And how do we do this? Well, first and foremost, it says find a good fit. Though your prospective mentee might come to you, it's not out of the question for you to actively seek an individual that you feel can benefit from your knowledge within your own professional sphere. There is likely someone who you are seeing as a rising star or someone who shows great promise for a career. Another good source for a mentee are students at a local university. If you are in a position of controlling hiring decisions, consider having an intern join your organization for a semester and more. And I think this goes beyond just the work world as we talk about professional development. If you've mastered something or you're at a point where you are good at your craft, why not find somebody to mentor? Why not find somebody to teach and pay it forward to? It says professional men and women should equally be willing to invest in their talent and in whomever it lies. A diverse workforce benefits us actively engaged in the professional development with all. She says mentorship is for you. Don't forget that mentorship is not only valuable to the person being mentored, but to you as well. Choose a mentee who can stretch you, teach you, and help you develop your own personal and professional skills. Well, how many times have you thought about it that way? You know, you might be in a situation where you're trying to grow, you're trying to personally develop, you're trying to become that better person, you're trying to grow in your skill, your craft, your trade. But what if bringing on a mentee could actually challenge you and make you that much better at your own craft, skill, or trade? I think that's what the author is suggesting here. Suggesting that by bringing on a mentee, it is going to challenge us. It will stress us. It will give us the ability to learn more, because now not only are we responsible for our own success, but we're responsible for providing recommendations, coaching, and guidance to someone else. Corporations have for a long time known that mentorship helps at all levels of a professional's grow and thrive, and it often takes a reduced level of importance in smaller organizations. So whether you're a sole entrepreneur or the owner of a small family business, there is someone out there who can benefit from your coaching. So who is that person? Do you have someone in mind? Do you think you're not in a position where you can mentor? Well, I guarantee you, even if you're 6 months, 5 days, 2 days, 3 days ahead of the next person, you have a little bit more skill that you could help provide coaching, provide mentoring to. So think about that next time you're working on your own goals. What are some of the things that you've mastered? What are some of the things that you've been able to accomplish? And are there people who could benefit from that knowledge? It says here, any mentorship you engage in will need to be a balance of what you can offer and your mentee's needs and wants. Do an honest assessment of your availability and abilities, and then have a candid conversation with your prospective mentee. Be clear with what your expertise is and your willingness to share it with others. Start by defining a few clear objectives for your mentee, as well as things you hope to learn along the way. Have short-term goals and reevaluate regularly. Don't expect every mentorship to last years. Some may be project-specific or last through a career transition. What matters most in mentoring is taking someone's hand and helping them up step by step along the way. Whether this happens in emails over the years, across your kitchen tables, after hours, doesn't matter. It's inconsequential. Some mentees walk away after a couple months. Some will become lifelong friends and colleagues. But both are signs of success. Get to know individuals you mentor. Affirm them that when you see them thriving, and help them strengthen the places where they're weak. Encourage them to work towards more ambitious goals. And then count yourself fortunate to be there to watch them achieve success. It's exciting for us to have little successes. Exciting for us to accomplish, to have goals, be part of a winning team, project. It's also exciting to help somebody else, to see somebody else succeed. Remember how excited you were when you got that person in front of you at the coffee shop who paid for you? Same thing can be happening with mentoring. You're listening to My Strategy. I'm your host, John M. Hawkins, coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. When we come back, we're going to talk about developing your pay-it-forward strategy. We'll be right back. Hi there, and welcome back, everyone. The show is My Strategy. I'm your host, John M. Hawkins. We're coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. Well, this week we're talking about paying it forward, talking about the benefits of paying it forward. Generosity is in our nature, and it's socially contagious. We're talking about mentoring of others and developing a pay-it-forward strategy. Right before the break, we were talking about mentoring and how we can gain value not only for our mentee, but also for ourselves as we do mentoring for others. This segment, I want to talk a little bit about developing your pay-it-forward strategy. And as always, I have a 5-step process for developing a strategy. And it's 5 steps because I have 5 fingers on my hand, and it makes it simple to remember all of the steps. So first and foremost, I've got awareness, thinking about your vision, your goals. What are we trying to achieve? So from a pay-it-forward perspective, there has to be some sort of reason why we would do this. So we want to think about that. Once we've got that, the second step is assess and analyze. By assessing the situation and doing some analysis, you can figure out what steps need to be taken, if any. If it doesn't make sense for us and it doesn't align with the vision of what we want to do, then we don't need to do much assessment and analysis, but typically it's helpful. We then strategize and plan, and developing a strategy is the course of actions that we've identified, the tactics, the things that we can determine to do to be able to accomplish the goal. The fourth step is implement your plan. we have to start by doing, and starting those actions is something that can help us start on our new course of actions, which means that we do need to retire some of the old courses of actions and then support an evaluation. If we've implemented a new program, if we've augmented our strategy, we need to take periodic checks to see what is and what isn't working. I want to talk a little bit about developing our pay it forward strategy and what we can do. And assuming that we are all in agreement that paying it forward could help us in some way, then I'm going to transition and talk a little bit about some of the ways we can do it. Because I think this begins by just acting, by picking something and doing it and seeing what the impact is. I've got an article here that has 50 ways to pay it forward. Now, I don't agree with all of these, but I do think it gives us some ideas of ways we can pay it forward, since the predominant way that's been discussed today is paying for somebody in back of you in line at a coffee shop or drive-through. So number one, they've got pay it forward. Buy someone's coffee for the person behind you in line. We've talked about that one. What about compliment the first 3 people you talk to today? How about send a positive text message to 5 different people right now? Get out your phone, send text to 5 different people you don't know. Start with one person, see what happens. Post inspirational sticky notes around your neighborhood, office, school. Tell someone they dropped $1 even though they didn't, then give them the $1. Donate old towels or blankets to the animal shelter. Say hi to the person next to you on the elevator. Surprise a neighbor with freshly baked cookies or treats. Let someone go in front of you in the line who only has a few items. That's a hard one to do. You're in line, you can see somebody just has 1 or 2 items. What if you just let them go in front of you? How would they feel? How would you feel? Leave a gas gift card at the gas pump. I like this one. Throw a party to celebrate someone for just being who they are, which is awesome. You have a LinkedIn account? Write a recommendation for a coworker. Leave quarters at the laundromat. Encourage someone in customer service who is especially kind. Take an extra 5 minutes to tell their manager. Leave unused coupons next to the corresponding products in the grocery store. Leave a note on someone's car telling them how awesome they parked. Try to make sure every person in a group conversations feels involved. Write a message of kindness on your mirror with a dry erase marker for yourself, your significant other, or a family member. You know, some of these things are going to cost money, but some of them are free. Imagine if you walked in the grocery store and had to buy something and found a coupon. How would that make you feel? Send a gratitude email to a coworker who deserves more recognition. Practice self-kindness and spend 30 minutes doing something you love today. Give away something on Craigslist for free. Write a gratitude list in the morning and again in the evening. Do you know parents who could use a night out? Offer to babysit for free. Hold up positive signs for traffic or in a park for people exercising outside. Return shopping carts for people at the grocery store. That's a good one. That's not going to cost you anything. You see somebody just empties their cart. Hey, I can take that back for you. Wonder how they'd feel if we did that. What sort of chain could we start there? Pay it forward chain. Buy a plant, put it in a terracotta pot, write positive words that describe a friend on the pot and give it to that friend. Have a cleanup party at the beach or park. While you're out, compliment a parent on how well behaved their child is. Leave a kind server the biggest tip you can afford. When you're throwing something away on the street, pick up any litter around you and pick up that trash too. I'm always impressed by the people out there who are walking, doing their exercise, and they have a bag with them. And they always stop to pick up the trash. And I look at those people and I just think, wow, that's pretty good. Pay the toll for the person behind you. Write your partner a list of things you love about them. Purchase extra dog or cat food and bring it to an animal shelter. Take flowers or treats to the nurses' stations at your nearest hospital. Keep an extra umbrella at work so you can lend it out when it rains. Run an errand for a family member who is busy. Leave a box of goodies. Lots of things we can do here. Like I said, there's 50 of them. But if you were to receive any of these random acts of kindness, how would you feel in your day? You have a busy day. And then think about that feeling, and then if you were able to do something random for somebody else, how would they feel? I think that's what we're trying to do here, is we're trying to start a generosity chain. And what are we going to get out of it? Well, I think number one, we know by the research that people who do receive acts of kindness are generally going to be more kind. They're not going to be more kind than somebody who's mean to them. But if we all could do that, how much better would this place be? You're listening to My Strategy. I'm your host, John M. Hawkins, coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. When we come back, we're going to talk about putting your plan in place. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome back, everyone. I'm John M. Hawkins. We're coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. The show is called My Strategy. Well, in case you've missed this broadcast, do not fear. You can go to iHeartRadio, Apple, iTunes. We even have a video of this show on YouTube. And if you'd like to have something covered in this show, please send an email to talk@johnmhawkins.com. Or give me a call at 1-844-MY-STRATEGY. That's 1-844-MY-STRATEGY. Well, this week we're talking about paying it forward, talking about exploring the benefits of paying it forward. Generosity is in our human nature and it's socially contagious. Talked a little bit about mentoring and how it can improve our skills and help somebody, and also talked about developing your pay it forward strategy. Well, paying it forward, what is it all about? What does it mean? We learned that greed begets greed more than generosity begets generosity. What do we mean by that? We mean that if somebody says something negative, it has a bigger impact on you than if somebody is generous. But science tells us that if someone is generous to you, that you will be generous to someone else. You'll have a sense that you want to be generous. And this generosity is socially contagious. And we've seen where just one simple random act can ripple through social circles. We learned, the most common example that was referenced today was somebody in a fast food restaurant or at a coffee shop who paid for the car behind them in the drive-thru, and how we had many chains of paying it forward, which lasted hours and hours. We also learned about some of the studies in paying it forward and how scientifically we can see that people do tend to, if they are being paid forward to, that they will pay it forward to someone else. Talked a little bit about the financial aspect of it and how generosity is in our human nature and how helping others can help us just as much as it helps the other person. We know that, when we are generous and when we are providing for others, that when they receive that, there's a great sense of surprise. There's a sense of somebody's doing something nice for me. So as we start to think about it from a personal perspective, there's also the financial implications. Benefits on taxes, benefits on business goodwill. Many businesses out there do support their favorite charities. They do support things and are benevolent in that respect because it's good for the image. But I think it's also good for the people that work for those organizations. But keep in mind that giving just isn't about money. You don't have to have money to be somebody who pays it forward. You can offer to put somebody's grocery cart away in the parking lot of a grocery store. You could hold the door for someone. There's lots of ways that we can be kind and we can help others. One of the ways we learn that we can do that is by mentoring others. And I don't think you need to wait till you've reached the pinnacle of your life, the peak, before you start mentoring. No, if you've had any sort of experience, you have more experience than someone else, and you might be a good person who can mentor others. So start thinking about what value can you provide? What are the things that you can do? Who can you help? Now, this relationship might last a couple of minutes over a cup of coffee. Could turn into a lasting, long-time friendship that lasts a lifetime. But I think at the end of the day, if we can find people that we can mentor and help them out a little bit, that is going to help us with our pay-it-forward strategy. But keep in mind that breaking of habits is always hard to do, so we need to be aware of this. And the conscious prioritization and commitment will help us see it through. You've been listening to My Strategy. I am your host, John M. Hawkins. So very happy to be here with you this week. Can't wait to see you next time. We'll see you then.